Hello, family. Welcome back to my channel.
Hello, family. Akabeze's family, that is.
Yes, Akubeze here, content creator based in Lagos, Nigeria, currently in Port Harcourt, and I am here with my mama.
That's me.
What's your name, Mom?
My name is Mrs. Ifoma Margaret Okocha.
You wanted to say OCJ Okacha? She
Yes,
always
I
adds
did.
her
I always
husband's name to
well,
her name.
There are many Okochas. So.
It's true, Sha. We'll get into that. So yes, I'm excited today. I am filming a Q&A with my mom. I cannot even believe that this is happening because if you have watched the YouTube journey, you will know that this was the same lady that made me tear down my channel 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're here. Brief background, a lot of people ask many questions. I put this out both on YouTube and Instagram, so I just kind of collated the questions into like similar themes. So first question was, what is your background? People can tell that you're mixed race. They want to know, what is your mix?
Well, my dad is from Nigeria. He's from, or should I say was, because he's late. He was from Ndoni, River State. And my mom was from Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK.
So she's a mixed
Yes,
race.
I'm mixed race.
Yes.
And please don't you ever say half caste, because that's derogatory. I'm mixed race.
Continuing on that note, people want to know, what was your experience growing up as a mixed race in Nigeria? Did
Not
you
only
face a lot?
growing up, it doesn't end.
Mm.
Unfortunately, because we are mixed, you're neither European, or should I say white, as they will say it in Nigeria, or black. You're mixed. So when you're in Nigeria, they say you're Oyibo or white. And when you're abroad, they say you're black. So you face racism wherever you are, and it still exists till today. Some people just hate you because of your color, because they feel that your color gives you a certain amount of pride, especially in Nigeria. But it doesn't, so they don't even bother to know you. All they see is your color, and then they have an assumption.
Yeah. So somebody else asked, do you feel more connected with your British side or your Nigerian side?
With my Nigerian side, because we were typically brought up as Nigerians. And my mom also advised us that it was always important to have one side that you remain loyal to, because ultimately in the end, the real you wants to come out.
To be honest, it's interesting because you have 5 sisters, which a lot of people were also asking about, but I'm not really going to get into your sisters.
Yes.
But I don't think all of you identify as more Nigerian. I think some of you identify as more British, some of you identify as more Nigerian. So I feel like there must be something about you as well, that because even when people call you Oyibo, you always say I'm not Oyibo. As in, so there must be something about you that you identify with the Nigerian part. So do you feel like there was anything that you picked up in like growing up? What was it that made you draw towards that Nigerian culture?
I just felt that because my dad was Nigerian and we were basically brought up in Nigeria, that I'm Nigerian, because invariably you follow your father, not your mother.
Interesting. So another question is, what was it like growing up with 5 sisters?
That's a very long story,
As
which I have told many a time. It was very interesting because we're different characters, and I happen to be the 4th. And I have always shown a different character from when we were small, so they always took the mickey out on me. I'm actually testimony of God prepares you ahead for where He wants you to be, because I used to run away from the glare of my sisters into the kitchen and to the marketplace where I knew they didn't want to go. So that was my safety net. And even though I didn't do catering, I developed a love for cooking and shopping and going to the market, and that's where I am now. That's where God has blessed me.
those are still the skills that you're using
That I'm
for your
using
presence.
for my presence, yes.
That's awesome. So I also wonder what it was like culturally though, like, you know, in dealing with other people. Did it seem weird being from a single sex house? I don't know how to explain it, like just sisters. Did you ever face criticism, or were people endeared towards you guys that, oh, that's the house of sisters, you know?
Well, at that time, if you didn't have a boy, it was a serious issue. And then it wasn't common to be from a mixed family either. So we kind of stood out. A family of 6 girls with mixed parents. And my father was a lecturer in the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. So I don't think there's anybody that went through University of Nigeria in Nsukka that did not know of Professor Chukwuemeka Oyolu and his 6 daughters. And they had many a joke they used to say about us that, we were very expensive. How they came about that conclusion, I don't know. Just the color, just the way we were brought up. Because my father always told us, walk tall. You'll always face opposition as you move on in life, because some people will hate you for who you are. Some people will love you for who you are. So the best thing is just to be yourself and walk tall. And to make matters worse, we were basically taller than most average women. So that was also intimidating both to the boys and to the girls. And whether I like to admit it or not, in all humility, I will say, we're kind of good looking. So that was another point that gave us some opposition, or should I say some recognition.
I think you guys stood out, definitely.
Stood out, definitely.
Okay, moving on to your personal goals and aspirations. People wanted to know, did you have any career goals when you were younger?
First of all, I wanted to be a reverend sister. I don't know whether I would call that a career goal, but I loved the Lord so much that I wanted to be a reverend sister.
SU.
I have no apologies. I always loved the Lord. I used to attend SU meetings. I was never really found with the party crowd, except I used to tag along with my sister, and then they used to use me for my cooking skills. I only ever wanted to get married and have children. I didn't want to be a high flyer in any other aspect except being a wife and a mother. I toyed with politics when I was in university, and I did realize that women have a lot of opposition in politics, even though I managed to weather the storm in Nsukka, and I was a female parliamentarian from my second year till I graduated. I was actually voted best female parliamentarian for 3 consecutive years, and I actually rose to Deputy Speaker of the House. And I don't think there's any politician that went through Nsukka, student politics, that didn't know me, from Professor Patu Tomi to Her Excellency Tessio Denwa, Engineer Miki Okoye, even our latest obedient, Itobi. Yes, we were all in it together.
That's awesome. But it's very rare to find women, especially nowadays, that can say that really all that they wanted to do was just to marry and have children. Like, was it different back then? Were women not very career oriented? You could be bold and say, oh, I just want to marry and have kids.
No, women were career oriented because the generation before mine was actually becoming more exposed to the Western education. We were having doctors and professors and lawyers and things. People wanted to excel, but I never really wanted to go in that direction. I just wanted to build a home and make a good job out of it. And at that time, I used to have a lot of older friends. I was the general nanny in Nsukka. And so the love of children just endeared that to me. And I just said, oh, I want to have 6 children. I want to get married. And I want to just
build a home.
Yeah, build a home. That's it.
Beautiful. So, when you now decided to get married, how did you know that daddy was the one?
Well, I'd always known I wanted to get married, and when I was in university, I used to make fun, or should I say, with my friends in school, and I'd say that when I was coming for my convocation, I didn't know it was a prophetic word then, but I used to say that when I was coming for my convocation, I was coming with my husband-to-be, and he was going to drive a Volvo. Now,
you were that specific?
Yes, I was that specific. So what were the odds that that was what I was going to do?
Wow.
Then the year before I graduated, I came to Port Harcourt for a wedding, and believe it or not, I saw this. I didn't see him physically. I don't recall seeing him physically at the wedding, but when we got back to Nsukka, because my friend was a student, we were going through the albums, and I saw this picture of this big, full-bearded, handsome looking man, and I said, this is the kind of man I want to marry. This is my Barry White, because I loved Barry White. I loved his music, touched my heart. And so I actually kept his photograph.
Wow.
I didn't know who he was, and it was not until a year later, when I came to do my youth service, I met him. I still didn't realize he was one until he came to the house and he was going through my photographs, and he said, "What's my photograph doing in your album?" And I had to tell the story. So I was just ready, and I met him, and
you manifested him, Mom, because for you to have had his picture, for you to have prophesied all of that.
Well, now in retrospect, I do realize that it was God that had ordained that our paths would cross, and that he was going to be my husband.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it. It was God.
When did you find God? Did you find God before marriage or in marriage? Well, because you said you loved God even from
I have
university.
always loved God. So, but at that time, there wasn't this thing called born again. So you just loved God. And I knew that I was a bit different from the others because I didn't like dressing the way they dressed. I was very conservative. You won't believe it. I didn't wear trousers until I got married. I thought it was a sin. And even when I wore the trousers, I would wear a slip inside. I would get a slip that had slits on both sides, and I'd turn it around so that the slits were inside, so that I could wear it because I felt I was naked.
Wow.
I never wore anything that showed my cleavage. I was always very conscious of closing myself up. So I would say I've always loved the Lord, but it wasn't until 1990 that I actually gave my life to Christ after I got married.
Wow. So somebody asked, what is your advice for newlyweds? And another person asked, how have you sustained your marriage for several years? So I feel like those questions are linked.
Well, first of all, you should be able to communicate. You should be friends. And for another thing is that God should be number one. And for every woman, you should be very patient and tolerant. And in love, in spite of, not because of. Because if you're waiting to love because of, you'll never love. Because the man will hurt you. The man will most probably betray you sometimes. But if you want it to work and you believe that God had a hand in it, then you'll be patient, you'll be tolerant, you'll be long-suffering, and your knees will be on the floor all the time.
That last part did it for me. Okay, another question was, what are your thoughts on arranged marriages? Could you have been in one, and would you want one for your children?
There's actually nothing wrong with an arranged marriage as far as you both have similar, should I say, upbringings and similar ideas about life, and you can actually communicate. Because when you know yourselves, you'll be able to weather the storms because you're coming from similar backgrounds, and so your parents have been through similar, should I say, storms and weathered them, and you have similar values and principles, so it's easier for you. And then you do know yourselves, and you're extra committed because it's like not a total stranger that you don't know, so it can work. I wouldn't have minded an arranged marriage, and I could have arranged marriages for my children, which I didn't, but I could.
Yes. Somebody said, what kind of son-in-law would you want for your child?
Somebody that would be my son. Somebody that would love my daughter just the way he would love his own sister. That would care for her, provide for her, understand and be tolerant, and of course be the head of the family, spiritually and otherwise.
Yeah.
That's the kind of son-in-law I want.
That's beautiful. Somebody said, what is your advice for somebody in their 30s that's looking for marriage?
No stress. Earlier on in life, I did feel that there was a time when you had to get married. Maybe because all I wanted to do was get married. So, 22, I was married and had a child. So I felt, oh, you have to get married early, you have to get married early, you have to get married early, if not, you're going to remain on the shelf. But now I do realize that it's better for you to wait and get the right person than to rush into marriage, make a mistake, regret, and have to come out.
Yeah.
So age is just a number. Yes, I know the biological clock will start ticking, but then with IVF, surrogacy, adoption, there are so many avenues, because you can get married at 21 and you don't have a child. So now there's no limitation, really, we'll say, because with God, all things are possible.
Right.
So wait, don't put any pressure on yourself. If not, you'll make a mistake.
Okay, moving on to parenthood. They said, what does it take to raise children that are rooted in Christ?
There's no hard and fast rule. You just have to expose them to the Lord as soon as you can. Get them to have a personal relationship with the Lord. Let them understand the importance of having Christ in their lives, because He is number one. So take them to church. Discuss what is discussed in church. I mean, my children are not perfect. My children are not, should I say, born again, holier than thou exclusively, but I know that they all love the Lord. So what I would do with them, which I encourage mothers now to do, is that when we used to come out of church in the car coming back home, we'd all discuss what we heard in church, and then we'd say who the word was for. And invariably it would be for one person or another. And then I'd encourage them to tell me what happened, and if they saw people in the choir that they knew before had like bad stories about them, so that they could see that there's always the opportunity for you to change. Nobody's perfect. I didn't expect my children to be goody two-shoes. I just expected them to love the Lord. So there's no real hard and fast rule, because you can take your children to church and they won't be in church. While you're praying, they're outside playing.
Yeah. I feel like just seeing you loving God, like we just have this joke of how everything is Jesus to my mom. Like, you know, you want to go out, she needs to consult with Jesus. You want to wear this, she needs to consult with Jesus. We're watching something on the movie, Jesus will enter the conversation. So I feel like even if you were not necessarily telling us, oh, Psalm 91 says this, just in your everyday, your way of life, you just surrounded us with an awareness of, oh, there is this God, oh, and He's with us, oh, and better know Him, oh. So that's beautiful. But next question. This was the highest, most requested question. How you have felt about my transition, my sobriety journey, and my faith journey, and all the transformation that has happened, and how it was for you as a mother.
Well, let me be honest. I didn't realize what my daughter was up to. I never believed she had gone down the journey that she went down. But I have always prayed for my children. And so I believe, even though I didn't know physically, in the spirit realm, the Lord must have known. And so I've always prayed for my children, prayed for their safety, prayed for them against friends that are negative, against the pull of the world. I've always warned them about the effects of alcohol and drugs. And I have let them know that just like we have physical genealogy, we have spiritual genealogy. And on both sides of the family, alcoholism is a spiritual genealogy. And a lot of negativity that came out as a result of that. So I have always exposed them to that, and I've told them that from one thing leads to another. So when I did find out, I was shocked. And it actually opened my eyes to the fact that I have been judging. So when I found out, I was disappointed, but then I was also grateful to God that she had an experience that turned her life around. Prior to this, I didn't want her to be in the open world. I don't really like Facebook, Instagram, all these YouTube, social media. I'm on none actually. I felt she was exposing herself too much. Now, why am I going to do this? Is because I believe she's going to make an impact in the world out there. Because there are a lot of young girls and young boys who can't come to their parents and be honest and truthful. But to the glory of God, my children can be truthful to me eventually.
Yeah.
And I will not judge them. Instead, I will try and assist them in whatever way I can to move away from the negativity back into positivity. So parents, please don't judge your children and don't judge others. There are so many of you young people out there that are facing challenges. You can't tell your parents for fear of judgment. You can't tell some of your relations for fear of judgment. But you know one thing, God loves us all.
Yeah.
God is always there, willing to accept you, no matter how you are, no matter how red and scarlet your sins are. He'll wash them white as snow.
Yeah.
And it's never too late. It is never too late to say, Father Lord, I need you. Take me, help me, be with me. And He will change my story, and He will change your story, because He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And there is absolutely nothing that He cannot do.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you know, when you said that you may not have been physically aware, but you were spiritually aware, it's so true. Because I have all our conversations, and there are times that my mom would send me these long messages of, Aku, what's going on? I had a dream about you last night. Open up, talk to me. It's like, and I'll be like, Mom, I've done everything I'm meant to do. But you knew deep down that something is off with this, my daughter, and you tackled it in prayer, aside from sending me messages and trying to reach out. So I feel like that's something that I hope to apply for my children as well. Just being so prayerful, because you don't know how your mother's prayers will save you. It's your prayers that must have saved me on that day, man.
Like Stormy or Matthew, I think that's the name. I've forgotten her name actually, but there's a book I read, The Power of a Praying Parent, and that's true. You really need to pray for your children. I started praying for my grandchildren even before they came forth. I've started praying for my great-grandchildren even before they have come forth. You need to begin, because the devil starts way beyond we do. So when you're praying, and I would always wake up, the Lord would wake me up about 3-4 and tell me there was something wrong with one of my children, and I'd send them this message, and they have this joke. Once their phone goes ping ping around
with
3,
exclamation marks,
they'll just say, there, mommy has seen her. Her spirit man has told her yet another thing. And I tell them, as the Lord has told me, something is going wrong somewhere. There's an attack somewhere. Chains are being bound. We need to break the chains. We need to, pray against the failure of the family, people veering off the world. The pull of the world is there. The pull of the world. And I know they would read it, but then they would laugh it off and say, there, mommy goes again. Her spirit man is at it again. Once they hear ping, ping, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, it's mom.
Okay, somebody said, what is your advice for people struggling with infertility? Did you ever struggle with infertility?
No, in fact, it was the other way around. That's why it's key to marry somebody that you can communicate with. Because if the person is not your friend, then you can't share the battle with the person. Because it is a battle. And you need to be together to be able to fight the battle. Because sometimes it's from the woman, sometimes it's from the man. But you need to work together and not play the blame game. So you have to be together. And just believe that there's absolutely nothing God cannot do.
Yeah.
I don't want to give other people's testimonies here, but I can tell you there is absolutely nothing God cannot do. He will give you a child in due season.
Yes. So, okay. Another question is, how have you dealt with female friendships?
When I was growing up, I wasn't very, should I say, friendly or looking for friendship with other people.
You kept to yourself.
I kept to myself. I had 2 friends, and I'm still friends with them today. I met one in secondary school, and then she introduced me to the other one in university, and we became friends, and we have remained friends today. But as I got married and I came to Port Harcourt, I hadn't grown up in Port Harcourt, so I only knew the women that I came across as my husband's friends or in the line of my business. And I can assure you that I haven't had it easy. I've been lucky. I've gotten a few contemporaries, and I'm blessed with one confidant that I met when I came to do my youth service. And we have been friends for 38 years. We have never quarreled. We have never envied ourselves. We have never spoken a bad word about each other. We have uplifted one another in prayer, in finance, in emotions. I would ask every young girl to look for Bishop T.D. Jake's sermon when he talks about 3 categories of friends, so that you don't get disappointed. Because of the Lord, and because the Lord prepared me with that sermon, I already begin to look at everybody in those 3 categories. Are you a comrade? So I'm not disappointed. Are you a contemporary? Okay, betrayal is around the line. And then I'm satisfied with my confidence. And everybody knows she's my best friend, and I can tell you her name is Mrs. Okwoma Obi Ilanusi.
Shout out to Okwi, baby. Auntie Okwi. So I think the point you're making is not everybody is your best friend,
No.
and know where to categorize people and take them as they are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. This was now the next most requested question. Please, what are your beauty, skin, wellness tips? How do you look so good at age 60? You know, what is it? What's the secret, mama?
Secret is Jesus.
What did I say?
Well, it's the truth.
Jesus enters everywhere.
I don't rub cream on my body. I don't rub powder or foundation. All I use is lipstick, eyeshadow, eyebrow pencil, and eyeliner.
And I'm even the one that added
And it's hard that I added the eyeliner and the eyebrow pencil. Now, because I have dark circles underneath my eyes, it's only this year my daughter finally took me to clinic. They were able to give me concealer for underneath my eyes.
But
And
you're not
believe
even
you
wearing
me, nope,
it.
believe you me. It's only when I'm going out and I say, okay, let me just make sure that there's no smear anywhere. If not, I have no beauty routine. I don't go to the spa. I hardly go to the salon. I wash my hair myself. So just look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, I'm what God created and I'm beautiful.
Yes, so but I think in what you've said something, because you keep it simple, and I think that is like an issue that we have in this generation, and that was an issue I was having with my skin. There's always one new product to try. There's always one new procedure to put yourself through. There's always something that they are selling you to let you know that this will make you look younger, this will make you look more beautiful, but really and truly you don't need all of that. And the peace that will come from your relationship with God is also going to add to, you know, your external glory, should I call it that?
Yes, and that actually struck something in me. I forgot that I actually had the same thing she had. I had terrible acne when I was growing up. And it actually bothered my father more than it bothered me. So he would try anything possible. There was nothing he heard about that he wouldn't try for me to use on my face. Sometimes I'd have like 100 pimples all over my face. Then I didn't even know what it was. There was peer pressure, you know, then oil of Ulay, and there was visible essence. Visible difference, sorry, those were the things in Estee Lauder, visible difference. They were the things that were in vogue. So I'll tell you the honest truth, I would actually go and buy, and I'll put a little bit on my skin, and I'll find out that I'm sweating. And I say, why are you doing this, Ifoma? You don't even feel nice. Why would you want to do that? Because everybody's now a model. Everybody can't be Naomi Campbell. There are some simple people, and we have to be normal people. Me, I'm a simple person.
Yeah. So we're rounding up now. We'll also want to know what you do for work. Like, what has your career progression been? Yeah.
Okay, well, when I got married, my husband didn't want a wife that worked. He laid that out on the table. But my mom had been a housewife, and she had told us that it was not the best. A woman needed to have some financial stability, and I will advise every young girl to have financial stability. Now, it doesn't mean you have to compete with your husband or have problems with your husband, if you go to God, He'll find a way of getting around it. So I started off by having a play group. I was teaching lesson in my parlor just to keep myself occupied because it was boring. And then I was earning a little bit. 4 naira then was a lot of money to me.
Wow.
And then when we were moving, because my father-in-law had died, the parents were bothered that the distance was too far. So I actually asked my husband if I could move into a boys' quarter structure, which we had started, so that my lesson children could come there. And eventually it evolved into a nursery school. And that's one thing I want to tell young people now. You don't have to have a fancy building. It's the content and not what you see. That is not the aesthetics. That is it. That's the content. No. My school, nursery school, was in a boys' quarter structure. But I can tell you that my nursery school produced most of the best young adults that we have today in River State. It was
shout out Only Fairly Days.
Yes, Only Fairly Days. And I'm sure I'll get so many comments from this YouTube. I have them around the world, and so many people have asked, why did you close it down? Now, when it came time to choosing, because my children were now leaving nursery school, and remember, my husband wants me to be a housewife, I had to choose. Do I continue with the school, or do I move to the catering business, which I love doing and was actually earning me more money than the school? So I went to the Lord in prayer, and He said to me, give yourself 1 year, close down the school, go find schools for all the children and inform the parents that you were closing down, and then start your catering business. Now, when I started my catering business, I got a lot of backlash too. They used to call me a mama put. They used to laugh at me because to be able to make maximum profit, I had to go and do the purchasing myself. I would go to the famous oil mill market in Port Harcourt, where you buy fresh ingredients at cheap price, direct from the traders, the farmers, and it would increase my profit margin. But that didn't stop me from being a housewife, cooking my husband's meals, making sure the house was run. So I'm a home keeper as well as a businesswoman. So for you to run your business, don't look to the left and don't look to the right. Be your own competition. Always strive to do something better, to improve yourself with everything that you do. When I used to bake my cakes a lot, I stopped because I had surgeries. I believe it's the devil. I had to have my bone here removed, my bone here removed. So even though my hands look like they're 100%, I don't have 100% use of my hands. I have like 40% use of my hands. So I had to slow down on the icing myself, but I have my staff that do it. But there was a time when I used to do like 200 cakes, 300 cakes a day, 400 cakes at Christmas. I'd have over 1,000 cakes. Everybody would be, and then it was royal icing, not fondant. So all my children had a job. You either piping the dot or piping the staff. So don't wait until you can have a big fancy place. Start small.
Start where you are.
Start where you are. And just keep at it. Keep at it. Keep at it. And that's what I tell people. Just based on word of recommendation, I have moved to be where I am today.
Awesome. Okay, now last question of the day. You are 60.
Yes.
Today I turned 29.
Ooh.
And people want to know, what would you advise your younger self? Or what would you advise someone in their 20s? What would you advise someone in your 30s? The point is, what advice would you give to your younger self? So what advice are you giving to me, your Wachi Junior?
Well, my advice to my daughter and to all young women, or younger than myself, or my younger self, is not to be in a rush. And to don't allow peer pressure to affect you. There are lots of things that I did because of peer pressure. There are lots of things I didn't do because of peer pressure. Always listen to yourself. Go before the Lord in prayer. Seek Him first. You don't have to be born again. Just love the Lord. He listens to everybody. Jew and Gentile alike. So just go before the Lord and ask him, this decision I want to take, is it in right standing with you? If it is, go ahead and do it. But don't say, oh, all my friends are getting married, therefore I have to get married. All my friends are doing this, therefore I have to do that. All my friends, no. Ask yourself, what do I want? What will be good for me? And let me do it if it is in right standing with the Lord.
Sorry, I just remember there's one question I asked Dad in his own interview. By the way, go and watch my video with my dad if you haven't already, which I was very intrigued by his answer. So I would like to ask you the same question. What is one thing you think I need to improve on?
Your hasty decisions.
Still be patient. Don't rush.
She just thinks of something and she's gone ahead. She doesn't stop to ask herself, if I do this or if I say this, what are the implications? So if you slow down, you'll make less mistakes.
Thank you, Mama. Love you.
Love you and happy birthday. I did it for your birthday.
Thank you. This is my birthday present. Thank
and
you
all
so
you
much.
out there, don't think you're going to see me again.
Yes, bye. Please subscribe and I'll see you tomorrow. You'll see her, God knows when. Be praying for the next one.
Well, it depends on the response.
Have you?
Yes. If you want to listen to more about Jesus, then I'll be there to tell you because I can assure you, He's the one that has kept me. He's the one that has sustained me through many a trial, many a betrayal, many a health challenge.
He's the
one.
Love you. Lord, but Jesus loves you even
more.
Bye.
Bye.